the 8 o'clock hour, and State Representative Jim Townsend is with us on this primary election day. And you're, borrow a term I learned in Mississippi, you're fixing to hit the road again here in a little bit, head over to Las Cruces. When people go and vote today, they're going to get their ballot. Of course, you can go online to the Secretary of State's website and get a sample ballot for you. Probably a good idea to look real close at that ballot to make sure party affiliation is correct. Now, the confusion on the districts is going to come because you're in a district now, but you may be in a different district when the new legislature or the new Congress sits. But we've all heard stories of, party affiliation changing and stuff like that. What can you do if you get your ballot and it just doesn't look right or something is glaringly wrong? Is there a procedure that is in place to help folks like that?
Absolutely. You should immediately go to that poll worker and declare that an issue. If there's a poll watcher there, they can help you remedy that problem. You can always go and file a provisional ballot and have it adjudicated at a later date, but you should never, ever let yourself become victimized by a ballot that is not representative of what your will is. Mm-hmm. If you look at it and it has party affiliation wrong, challenge it, get it changed. Today, in New Mexico, you can change your voter registration and vote and go back the next day and change it back if you want to. If you're a Democrat or a Republican and want to vote for a specific candidate, you can go change your voter registration, vote for that candidate, and then change back the next day. That's about as close to an open primary as we've ever gotten in New Mexico. Yeah. But I don't think any of us would let our balance in our bank account be fraudulent. I mean, we would challenge the bank on that, and we ought to take our voter registration just as seriously as that and make sure that it's correct.
Yeah, no question about that. I remember back when Hillary and Obama ran against each other, Rush Limbaugh talked about Operation Chaos on the radio, where Republicans would switch over to Democrats so they could vote for Hillary or Obama or something like that. Have you seen any of the evidence of that going on in New Mexico? Any Democrats crossing over to vote for a particular Republican candidate in the primary? I guess it could happen.
I think there have been people out there that have tried to initiate that activity. Most people don't want to play that game. You know, you're either a Republican or a Democrat or a declined state and independent, and you're that because you have those beliefs. And Americans just don't like to flip-flop on our beliefs that much. I mean, if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, you ought to be proud of it, and you ought to stand for it and be responsible for those votes. And most people are. They don't want to be manipulated. And so, do I think there are groups out there that do it? Yeah, but I think the common mom and pop in America, they don't want to be manipulated. They just want to stand for what they believe.
Yeah, I wish someday we'd get back to having voter ID and some things like that, but that's going to take a monumental change. Let me ask you this. On the education front, we've seen a lot of educators are very, very frustrated right now because of the hands-down control from the state, especially when it comes to the social studies curriculum. As a legislator, what efforts have there been to moderate that or change that, and how do you see the election potentially affecting education in New Mexico?
Well, I believe that New Mexicans are waking up to what curriculum and what processes are affecting their children at schools. I think if there was anything good about COVID, and the only thing I could think of that might have been good about COVID was it made moms and dads more aware of what their child was going through trying to be a student. And they became very frustrated. It was so much of it that just didn't make sense. And this remote learning did not work. And you had kids that were really good students that became depressed. They isolated themselves. They became frustrated. They went from being star students to, mediocre. And so parents started voicing that, and they wanted to get involved. And so I think you have seen the CRT issue, the wokeness of America become an issue. More and more parents, they really want an America like they remember when they were in school. They want a teacher that has the ability to discipline and affect education. They don't want a teacher that is trying to convince a child of their gender. They think little boys ought to go to a little boy's bathroom and little girls ought to go to little girls' bathroom, and right's right and wrong's wrong. And they don't want any of this other junk that goes with it. And all of that they saw becoming impactful in schools. And the other thing is that's the only place parents had a way to reach out and react. I mean, they couldn't do much else. I mean, most of them were working from home. The kids were hollering, I don't understand in the bedroom, and they'd go in there and they didn't understand it either.
Right.
And it just caused many families to be, affected in a not good way with what education was going on. I've challenged Artesia superintendents. I ran a bill this last year that would have allowed the tax dollar to follow the child. And it was one that is widely accepted by Republicans and Democrats alike. But at that time, the Artesia School Board did not support that. And that kind of bothered me. So when I was talking to some of them, I said, when I drive into Artesia from the west, I see that water tower out there that has every one of those state championships on it that we're all so proud of. That did not occur because the Bulldog football team was afraid of a challenge. That didn't occur because we played a weak schedule. That didn't occur because we didn't prepare ourselves. And we should be just as aggressive in preparing our children in the academic circles. And that causes us to change. I mean, what Bulldogs do on the football field is unique. Not very many teams have a starburst and execute it every day so well as the Artesia team does. We should be just as aggressive in our education to make sure that every student in New Mexico, regardless of whether they ride a bus or drive a Lexus, they get the same opportunities for a great education, and every teacher up there is pushing them as hard as they could. And if we have to change to do it, then let's change. But I really believe that, I don't believe for a second that we have the worst superintendents in the nation. I don't believe for a second we have the worst teachers. I think we have teachers and superintendents that are strapped with a process. And I think America has allowed the degradation of the family to the point that the product that we send to our teachers to teach sometimes is more challenging than it was years before because of the discipline in the home. And I know that's probably a little deeper than you wanted to get. But it is an issue.
Part of it. It's all part of it together. So I think the takeaway from this is that if you want change with the schools, and some people, especially because of COVID, said we're just not going to deal with it here in New Mexico anymore and left.
Yeah.
Some people are looking for private, religious-based education to put their kids into. We're even seeing a couple of those types of academies here in Artesia, which 10 years ago or 20 years ago would have been, unheard of to think of something like that on a bigger scale than what we're seeing.
And that's very important to a community, I believe. I mean, Paula and I supported one of those significantly because I think when we allow competition to enter our education system like we do our football, you'll see results that look like our football scores. You'll see education rise to the opportunity. You'll see teachers that start going to the schools that have the best curriculum. You'll see teachers that'll go to schools where they can produce the best students, because that's what teachers want to do. That's what they are. They are teachers because they want to help kids learn.
Well, we're going to have to fix this PED
Absolutely.
problem, because right now anybody in education has probably told you our hands are tied.
They are too.
Unshackle us, untie us, so we can do exactly that.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything you want to leave with the folks on this primary election day? I know we've talked about important reasons to get out and vote. You've talked about the history and the just being a good citizen demands that you go out and vote. Anything else you'd like to mention?
No, I think we have the opportunity in America to vote. We should not take that lightly. We should all go out and encourage each other to go vote. We should be knowledgeable about the candidates that we're voting for, and we all ought to vote in a manner that expresses our desire to make a better America and a better New Mexico. And if you don't vote, you're not in the game, and you're sitting on the bench. And as I tell some of my people that comment about that, you're just commenting from the cheap seats. You're not even getting close to the game. And if you want to make this world better, get involved in the process.
Come on down to the front row and join
right.
us. So, Jim Townsend, thank you so much. Appreciate all the fine work you're doing, and keep up the good fight. I'm sure you've heard that a few times.
Well, thank you, Gene. Thank you for all you do.
All right.